Hi everyone, my name is Heather and I'm the person behind Happy Puppy Truffles. Today I wanted to share with you guys a fun project that you can use to combine origami and sewing to make your own wallet that's a little more sturdy and durable. I've showed you guys how to make this wallet just with origami paper, and it makes a really nice kind of simple piece, more like an envelope really. If you're looking to make something that's a little more sturdy, you can always use fabric. And there's a couple different ways that you could approach this. You could just strictly use fabric, which I've done with this example here. And I just, folded it just as you would regular paper and used an iron to get all the folds done. And if you want to, you can use a little bit of starch to keep things in place if you prefer. But it's just a pretty simple kind of process, and I just put a little bit of edging on the top here. Or you could have created a nice clean edge to the paper to the piece of fabric before you started. It's up to you guys of which way you want to do that. But this still is a pretty flimsy, kind of bendable sort of thing. If you want something that's just a little bit more sturdy, there's a couple of different things you can do. What I was going to share with you guys today is the technique of taking the fabric that you're using. I'm going to be just using the same kind of fabric here. And you create sort of like a pillowcase for your piece of paper. So I have this is actually, sewn already and turned inside out to be like basically a pillowcase. The whole thing is sewn all around all four edges with just a slight opening here on the edge. And I'm going to roll up my paper and put it in here. Fingers crossed it'll work. I haven't completely finished this before, so we'll see if it works or not. But I'm still shooting for the same kind of size. I think this wound up being just a tiny bit smaller. I think it's more 35 by 36 centimeters as opposed to 36 by 37. I'm hoping it'll still work okay. This was the only size of fabric I had left, so I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed. Luckily, I think, money in Japan's a little shorter, so I'll be okay. But this part, is completed for this part at least. And then I have my paper. And my paper, too, was a little tricky because I didn't have any paper that was big enough, that was thick enough. This is that nice Bazille paper that's great for craft and scrapbooking and things like that. And it has a nice weight to it, but you can still fold it. You could use construction paper. You could use cardboard, too, if you take the time to make good creases. Depending on how heavy you want everything to be. But the heavier you get, the harder it is to fit it into the little pillowcase thingy, so just keep that in mind. But what I did is I just took 4 pieces that I could then tape together, and just used, that technique. Since we won't be seeing it, it'll be inside. And some of these creases happen to fall where the edges of my paper are anyway. It kind of worked out pretty good. But what I did is I folded all of this preliminary stuff here so that I could get the creases down. And then when I put it all together and put it inside my the outer fabric piece, it'll be a little easier to keep things going because I've already got the creases established. So that's what one of the first few steps I took in getting this prepared. Now, I also would recommend getting the creases laid out on this too. So I'm just going to do that really quick here with an iron, and you're just going to, put the creases in to the piece here in the similar way as to what I've done with the paper. So I'll do that really quick, turn the camera off for a second, do that really quick and show you guys how it looks when I'm finished. So I've got this all ironed out here, and I also have the piece that I'm going to put in the middle to kind of keep things clean. And I really don't think you have to sew this in at all, but if you prefer to, you could, or use a bit of craft glue. Either way would work. But I have the finished part here of this piece, and then I can just kind of open it up and find my opening again here, and of course keep the same direction for everything. Let's see here. I want to try to keep this right. I hope this works. We'll see if it does or not. I'm a little nervous, but I'm going to try to roll it and put it into the hole that I've got on this side. And I just actually opened up that seam just a little bit so that it'd be the same as 1/4 fold, so I could try to put this in and then expand it inside. Let's see if this works. So far, so good. Get this part opened up. Okay. I'm slowly getting it to work in here, I think, if I can keep going here. Looks good so far. And I did try to make it, you know, pretty tight fit if I could with everything, so I'm hoping this will fit in here well. Looks pretty good. So I've got that pretty much in there, and then I'm just going to sew off this edge really quick to finish it off, and then we can maybe go ahead and recrease everything with the iron to make sure it's all finished off nice. Let me go ahead and sew this off really quick. So I've got it all put together here now, and you might need to tweak some of the folds depending on how things lined in there a little bit, but I get a nice little wallet with all the little pockets that you'd like to have here, and it's pretty sturdy. And if you've got this little piece of fabric that you'd like to put inside, you can go ahead and just slide that in here too. This part can be a little tricky because you're just dealing with, you know, a pretty thin piece of paper and a pretty thin piece of fabric and trying to get it nicely lined up in here. So you might need to take some time and kind of play around with it a couple times. It's harder to get fabric to slip into corners than it does with paper. Paper, you know, just kind of slides right in there, but this can be a little tricky. Try to get that all the way in there. I should be able to get that to be nice and snug in there. And like I said, if you prefer like to have it really smooth and perfect, you could use some craft glue or something. Or I think that just the general pressure of everything keeps it together nicely. But that gives you a nice little completed part there. And then if you wanted to, you can add like a clasp. I'm just going to add a kind of strap piece that I found at the 100 yen store. It's just a simple kind of thing where you just connect it on one side and pull it over so that it can slide through here. So I'll just, you know, try that here and see what it looks like when I'm done. So I'm just going to sew this in to the pieces here, and yeah, I don't need to go through. You want to make sure you don't go through all the way through, of course, just to here. And you know, if you were wanting to make it even more completed, you could put some layer of you know, fabric tape or something over the area that you've sewn on. But I'm just going to do this really quickly to kind of give you guys an idea of what it looks like here. So when I got the latch on, it kind of looks something like this, and it's just a simple kind of closure, and you could put your money in here if you want to. You can also put other things in here too, receipts, those kinds of things. Lots of different fun things you can use this for, that's for sure. You can, like I said, keep it out kind of like this if you prefer, or put it all the way in the pocket. Like I said, this did wind up being just a tad bit smaller, but it still holds US currency okay. And I know Japanese currency is a little smaller, so it should all fit in there pretty good. But it's just one way that you can use the you know, origami techniques, but with a different kind of craft, to create a fun sort of project that makes something that can last a little longer. And you know, I hope you guys can find some fun ways to adapt this to your own kinds of projects and things. You know, feel free to leave any comments or questions in the comment section below. I'll have some more fun projects to share with you guys in the days to come. Thanks again always so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!